Good evening, my name is Karina Wilkes and we're going to go over our second video on the Kabbalah and the creation process. In the last video we saw the meaning of each sefer and we went from Kether all the way down to Malkut. In this video we're going to show the 7 steps or levels of creation that are represented here in the Kabbalah. Let's get started. We saw last time that Kether is the sum of all possibilities that we can do, the sum of everything that we can think of, that we can possibly make in this universe. It is the unity of all ideas. It is completeness, and it is the brightest light of understanding. That is, if we thought about every single thing that we could ever make in this universe, we would have absolute understanding. When we look at the creation process in the Bible, we see that the first day really does conform with this idea. We see that the earth was void and without form, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the waters. At that time, the waters was one thing. It was not two separate things, but one complete entity. But there was a problem. There was no light. And therefore there was no way to distinguish one part of the waters from the other part. And so God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. However, the minute that there was light shed on this waters, there came to be a separation of the waters. And that is the very meaning of Kokma and Bina. There is a separation of an idea out of the whole of ideas. And that becomes something separate. But also something else is going on here. There is a distinction between what is closer to the ideal, or what the finished product in Kether, and what is closer and what is not so close. So there is a system of above and below. We see that when God separated the waters. So now that there's light, we can see that there is a difference between one water and the other water. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above it. And God called the firmament heaven. So we see now that there's two separate waters, and they're two separate qualities. And they're separated permanently now by the firmament. And this leads to the third level, which is grouping by kind. And now that we have two separate waters, we're not going to discuss the upper waters anymore. We're only discussing the lower waters. And when we read what happens on the third day, we see that the waters are gathered together and dry land appears. So here there's this grouping going on. And the dry land he called earth, and the waters he called seas. Then he further divides, and he says, okay, we're not going to talk about the waters anymore. We're going to talk about just the earth. And so he begins to divide the earth up. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And so there is this division that's going on, the grouping. But the grouping keeps going. It keeps going down and down, and goes on forever. Because you can talk about trees, and then you can talk about a specific tree, and then you can talk about the cells in the tree, and you can keep drilling down and down and down and keep getting more and more specific. After that level is the kingdom. But the kingdom is set in such a way that it reflects everything that is above it and everything that is below it. It is the dead center. It is the last spot in the creation process, as we talked before, these 6 levels of creation. And is the first level where you can actually start having some judgment going on. You can start seeing what it is that you're doing and actually assessing its quality. And we see that in the creation story. We see that God then recaps everything that went on before. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, which is a reflection of the first day when he created the first light. And to divide the day and the night. So there's that division going on again. And let them be for the lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth. And so we see in the third day the creation of the earth part. And so Tephereth is a reflection of all that had gone before. But now it goes into what's going to happen later. And God made the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. If we go back and we look at our diagram, we see that Kether is that all light. It is like the sun. And below it is Yesod, which is like the moon, actually. The law is often depicted as the moon. And so Tephereth reflects both. All that can possibly be, and all that had gone before it, in Benin and Kokma, Gevurah and Chesed. And it also is a reflection of all that we can feel and think of it. It is the kingdom. Next, we have the level of judgment, where we said that we make assessments on what was created in Tephereth. We have our emotional assessment and our mental assessment. In the creation story, however, we see that God let the waters bring forth life, with every moving creature that hath life, and the fowls that can fly above the earth. And God created the great whales, the Tanyan. Now here, most scholars agree that the word Tanyan, which has been translated as whales, is a misnomer. Because the word Tanyan everywhere else in the Bible is translated as dragon or sea serpent, and even as Leviathan. And so the Tanyan is the great dragon, the dragon who is made to assess Israel, who is the iron furnace that tests and purifies Israel. And so the appearance of this Tanyan or whale is quite appropriate in that level of judgment. And as we see here, here's the depiction of the dragon, and it's the tester of Israel, is the iron furnace, and it is quite proper that it appears on the fifth day of judgment. We'll also see later that the priest occupies this level, and they are the purifiers as well. They are the ones that do the sin sacrifice. And so this last triad is actually the level of the priest, who interprets the law and also does the purification rituals. But we'll get into that later. Now the law, as we said, arises from conflict. When there is something that happens in creation that doesn't quite fit. And so yes, it gives rise to the law. In the creation story, we see that Adam and Eve were created, and they were made in the likeness of God. And the law that was given is that even though all other creatures were also given the rule to multiply, be fruitful and multiply, they were given the additional rule of having dominion over all the earth. And so this law is set. The last state is, of course, rest. It is the final state. It is all the things that have been created are now set on the stage. They've been through the judgment process. The laws have been given, and now it is time to rest. This is the final state that we find everything in. And so thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all of the host of them. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested from all the work which he had made. And that ends the cycle of the process. Next time we'll look at this process in regards to some other Bible stories, and see that they also fall into this pattern of the Kabbalah. And this pattern of the Kabbalah is throughout the entire Bible. And so it is a method or a process that is used in all creation. and in all of the Bible stories. Thanks for listening this time, and I hope to see you again.